books, so you get it right from the beginning. This is narrated by John Milk, a young man who is a member of Kinsey's class. This class, as you'll see from the reading, was the sensation of the campus. It was called Marriage in the Family, as you'll find out. But Kinsey was very frank about sex, almost in a way that he wanted to shock students and push it in their faces. He used color slides to show how the sexual parts fit together. And in its time, this was in 1939, this was quite outré. And of course, students interested only in learning flocked to this course. He also had a curious nickname, which has for me, a wonderful closeness to an English slang term for the male organ. His nickname was Proc, P-R-O-K, which stands for Professor K. Before we get into the reading, though, I would like to tell you about my adventures with German. Some years ago, when I first got here, I picked up a great expression in German, which is so valuable to me that I was using it on the train twice today. And it is this: Würden Sie bitte Ihre Fuß von meinem Ohr wegnehmen? And you know, I mean, I'm beginning to understand what people are saying to me. And I'm even getting kind of forceful about it. We went out in a kind of strange place for lunch, and it was questionable what we were eating. And I said, so, was ist das? Ist das die Wiener Schnitzel oder der Hutschnitzel? But from you, the phrase I'd most like to hear in German is, kommen Sie hier für ein Bier? See, I'm getting it. I'm really getting it. This book begins with two epigraphs, which I will read in English, and then Jan-Josef will give it to you in German. And I will begin reading you the story, and Jan-Josef will continue in German. Because Kinsey made this polarity between our spiritual and romantic selves and our mechanical animal selves, I've chosen two quotes to play off of one another. The first is a very romantic one, and it's from William Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. And it goes like this: Eternity was in our lips and eyes, bliss was bent. So romantic that people are probably making out yes, they're making out in the dark back there.
Seems to become an explosive evening. Der zwei Vorsprüche vor dem Buch. Der erste stammt von William Shakespeare aus Antonius und Kleopatra. In unserem Mund und Blick war Ewigkeit, in unserem Brauen Glück.
And the second one is from Dr. Kinsey himself, from his second volume of his statistical sex studies. It's from Sexual Behavior in the Human Female, which came out in 1953. Some sort of non-penile stimulation of the female genitalia is almost universal among the lower mammals, where, however, the lack of prehensile hands places the burden of activity on the nose and mouth of the male.
Irgendeine Art der Erregung der weiblichen Genitalien außer der durch den Penis ist unter den Säugetieren fast allgemein zu finden, wobei infolge des Fehlens von zum Greifen geeigneten Händen diese Aufgabe im Wesentlichen der Nase und dem Maul des männlichen Tieres zufällt.
The prologue takes place in Bloomington, Indiana in 1956, and John Milk is looking back on his career with Alfred C. Kinsey. Looking back on it now, I don't think I was ever actually sex shy, to use one of Proc's pet phrases. But I'll admit I was pretty naive when I first came to him, not to mention hopelessly dull and conventional. I don't know what he saw in me, really. Or perhaps I do. If you'll forgive me a moment of vanity, my wife, Iris, claims that I was something of a heartthrob on campus, though I would have been the last to know of it because I wasn't dating and had always been uncomfortable with the sort of small talk that leads up to the casual inquiry about after-class plans or what you might or might not be doing on Saturday after the game. I had a pretty fair physique in those days, with a matching set of full-back shoulders and a 30-inch waist. I was first string on my high school team till I suffered a concussion midway through my junior season, and my mother put a premature end to my career. And unlike most men at college, I was conscientious about keeping myself in trim. I still am, but that's neither here nor there. To complete the portrait, because I've already got myself out on a limb here, I was blessed with what Iris calls sensitive eyes, whatever that might mean, and a thatch of wheat-colored hair with a natural curl that defeated any cream or pomade I'd ever come across. As for sex, I was eager but inexperienced, and shy in the usual way, unsure of myself and just about as uninformed as anybody you could ever imagine. In fact, the first time I developed anything more than a theoretical grasp of what coitus involved, the mechanics of the act, that is, was during my senior year at IU in the fall of 1939, when I found myself sitting in a lecture hall, jammed to the rafters with silent, dry-mouthed students of both sexes as Proc's color slides played hugely across the screen. I was there at the instigation of a girl named Laura Feeney, one of the campus femme fatale, who never seemed to go anywhere without an arm looped through some letterman's. Laura had the reputation of being fast, though I can assure you I was never the beneficiary of her sexual largesse, if in fact the rumors were true. As I was later to learn, the most provocative-looking women often have the most repressed sex lives, and vice versa. I remember being distinctly flattered when she stopped me in the corridor one day during fall registration, took hold of my arm at the muscle, and pecked a kiss to my cheek. "Oh, hi, John," she breathed. "I was just thinking about you. How was your summer?" My summer had been spent back home in Michigan City, stocking shelves and bagging groceries, and if I had 5 minutes to myself, my mother had me pruning the trees, re-shingling the roof, and pulling weeds in the vegetable garden. I was lonely, bored to tears, masturbating twice a day in my attic room that was like a sweatbox at a penal institution. My only relief derived from books. I came under the spell of John Donne and Andrew Marvell that summer, and I reread Sir Philip Sidney's Astrophel and Stella 3 times in preparation for an English literature course I was looking forward to in the fall. But I couldn't tell Laura Feeney any of this. She would have thought me a washout, which I was. So I just shrugged and said, "All right, I guess." Voices reverberated in the stairwell, boomed in the corners, and fled all the way down the corridor to where the registration tables had been set up in the gymnasium. "Yeah," Laura said, and her smile went cold a moment. "I know how you feel. With me it was work, work, work. My father owns a lunch counter in Fort Wayne. Did you know that?" I didn't know. I shook my head and felt a whole shining loop of my hair fall loose, though I must have used half a bottle of cream oil on it. I was wearing one of the stiff New Arrow shirts my grandmother had sent me from Chicago, and a Glen-plaid tie I think I wore to class every day that year in the hope of making a good impression. My briefcase was in one hand, a stack of library books in the other. As I've said, the gift of small talk eluded me. I think I said something like, "Fort Wayne, huh?" In any event, it didn't matter what I said, because she let her turquoise eyes go wide. She was a redhead, or a strawberry blonde, actually, with skin so white you'd think it had never seen the sun. Gave my muscle a squeeze and lowered her voice. "Listen," she said, "I just wanted to know if you'd mind getting engaged to me." Her words hung there between us, closing out everything else. The chatter of the group of freshmen materializing suddenly from the men's room, the sound of an automobile horn out on the street, and I can only imagine the look I must have given her in response. This was long before Proc taught me to tuck all the loose strands of my emotions behind a mask of impassivity, and everything I was thinking routinely rushed to my face along with the blood that settled in my cheeks like a barometer of confusion. "John, you're not blushing, are you?" "No," I said, "not at all. I'm just..." She held my eyes, enjoying the moment. "Just what?" I shrugged. Well, we were out in the sun yesterday. Yesterday afternoon, moving furniture. So I guess, well..." Someone brushed by me, an undergraduate who looked vaguely familiar. Had he been in my psych class last year? And then she let the other shoe drop. "I mean, just for the semester, for pretend." She looked away, and her hair rose and fell in an ebbing wave. When she turned back to me, she lifted her face till it was like a satellite of my own, pale and glowing in the infusion of light from the windows at the end of the corridor. "You know," she said, "for the marriage course."
But it was very well done, though.